Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to E-Factor Radio, evolving, electrifying, and empowering humanity with universal love, with host Brenda Pierce and guests, elevating consciousness through thought-provoking conversation with some of the world's leaders in consciousness and personal transformation. Listen live each week at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, or download the powerful podcasts on demand for your listening pleasure. E-Factor Network is the home of E-Factor Radio and several independent broadcasters worldwide. Visit efactornetwork.biz today. Now, let's get on with the show.
Wow, and welcome to this very, very special E-Factor event. It's not our usual time. It's a special date and time because we have a very, very special guest who is a leader in personal transformation. And the story is going to be absolutely astounding and astonishing. And it's a made-in-America story of from rags to riches. And this person has comes from the heart in what he shares, and what he's going to be sharing with all of us today is going to be absolutely transformational for you if you are looking for a change. And a change can be an emotional change, a physical change, a financial change, whatever it is. This story that we're going to share, and this astounding guest, Craig Todd, is going to blow your socks off and show you what the potentials of human existence can do for you. So E-Factor Radio, as you know, is bringing fresh approaches to living life, and this is definitely a fresh approach. It is a wonderful opportunity for you to make a change, and change can happen in the moment. That's why it's called the present. It's a gift. And we're going to join Craig right after our commercial break, and so just hang tight, but make sure you put your seatbelts on because it's going to be a wild ride.
Got a message or a gift to share with the world? Want to be seen and heard? Have marketing, publicity, and online service needs? Let E-Factor Network help you and your business get seen and heard by millions. Visit efactornetwork.biz today.
Hi, it's Brenda here. Just want to let you know that E-Factor Radio is juiced by Jasuru. To find out more, visit jasuru.com/E-Factor. That's JUSURU.com/E-Factor. Bringing you fresh approaches to living life. Now let's get back to the show.
And here we are on the other side. And welcome to the show, Craig. Hello, Craig. Are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brenda. I had my my microphone on mute. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I had you on mute and you had mute. You were double muted.
I was muted.
Well, you're free to speak now. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have this time to spend with you.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be great. So, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm just so thrilled because, you know, in this day and age where we have fast food, fast cars, problems are solved in half an hour or less on TV, you have a real story. In fact, I really think that it should be a movie produced about it because it is so stellar in how you came from such humble rags to riches beginnings and really come from the heart. So I'd love it if you could take a few moments and set the stage for us. Tell us what a young Craig Todd, his life was like.
Wow, that's two shows. But
Reader's Digest version.
I know. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Well, starting out as a young kid, I grew up in upstate New York, and I grew up on a family-owned farm. And my grandfather was an immigrant, and so we were second generation. And we had a farm in upstate New York, and we worked the family farm. And as a farmer, we were relatively poor, and I mean poor. And it was in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, mid-70s, as I was growing up. And suddenly, my dad had passed away tragically of a heart attack at the age of 40 with 6 children. two of them being infants, and they were twins at 9 months old, and we ranged from 12 right down to those infants, and there were 6 of us. And so it wasn't easy growing up in the 70s. It was actually 1977. And so kind of where everything started for me, because I found the value of family, and I found the value of money, and I found the value of society, and I found literally everything started in my life. It was like I wasn't born until actually my dad died, which is kind of an odd thing to say. And so it was a big, huge wake-up call for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like to set the stage of what the mid-'70s were. A lot of our audience may remember that time. It was the Jimmy Carter era, right?
Right.
What else was there? There was the oil embargo.
Well, there was the oil embargoes going on. There was a lot of political strife. There was chaos going on in the Middle East. There was gas prices were through the roof. I remember having to wait in line. If your license plate had a certain number, odd or even, you could get X amount of gas. Things were just very, very expensive, and we had absolutely no money.
Yeah.
And so
I would say that time was probably a parallel to the 30s, in terms of the fact that inflation was hyperinflation. And remember, and some people might even remember the dawning of the Chrysler K car.
Sure.
Just to kind of paint the picture of way back what that was like, because some of our audience may have never ever heard of that time and how important it was in to lose your father at that time. You're the sole breadwinner because you were on a farm. The farm can provide food and lodging and all that sort of thing, but if there isn't the manpower there to run the farm can go downhill pretty fast too.
Yeah, and it really did. And we lived kind of in that. We had our own plot of land, and all of us lived on. We used to call it the compound, but we all lived on the same property. All the relatives, uncles, and aunts, and we all kind of worked on the farm together. And so it was you could grow your own crops and eat your own food, but it's still you needed the winters were hard and tough and long in upstate New York, and so those were the tough times. Summer times were great, but wintertime was just absolutely just horrendous.
Yeah. Farming is completely different then. It's not the agrarian agri-farm complexes now with which are like factory farms. It was manual labor. It was small tractors. It was a lot of hard push and shove and cutting wood and that sort of thing. So even though there were a lot of bodies, there was a lot of work. You needed the bodies. Losing your dad at that time, would definitely at that age, that tender age of 8 or 9 at that time, be an eye-opener.
I had just turned 11. My birthday was My birthday was December 28th, and my dad died just ironically a couple of days later, which was on New Year's Day, January 1st, which was my mother's birthday. So it was just a tough one. Add insult to injury and just compounded. And so, as my mother was dealing with the death of my father, and we were all grieving and things, one of the things that happened is we didn't have any money. We had nothing. There was no money coming in. And my dad always worked outside the farm. He always had a job outside the farm. And so he worked pretty much 40 hours a week, and he did what he could around the farm. But most of the other siblings and my uncles and aunts actually worked with the farm instead of him. And so he was the main sole breadwinner in our house. And my mom didn't have a job. She was raising 6 children.
Yeah, that's a full-time job.
My mother didn't have an education, and she was just, a house mom and raising us boys. And at that time, things began to get even worse because there was no money coming in, and we had to apply for Social Security benefits. And that took several months. It took months. I don't remember how long, but it was a long time. It was like maybe 6-8 months. And so we relied on family handouts. We relied on I would come home from school and there'd be a box of groceries at my doorstep, things like that. And so it was very, very hard, and I ate a lot of raviolis. I learned a whole lot about Chef Boyardee.
Well, and that's great. And it was the kindness of others that helped you get through that. But also it was an opening, like you said. The death of your dad was actually the birth of you. You had to open your eyes and no longer be the child. You had to do some quick thinking and some quick on your feet doing. And I'd love for you to expand and share that with us. What about that magical night when you looked at the sky? That's a tough one, I'm sure.
Yeah. It was, sorry. It was, okay. It was just after my birthday, and I think 7 or 8 months had gone by, and I literally, it was actually the next Christmas. It was right before the next Christmas. It was probably between November and December of 1977. And we had just gone through that very, very hard period, that whole year with just no money and no food and things. And very cold winter and what have you. And so I went outside one night, and I think it may have actually been closer to Christmas. And I went outside, and it was a crystal clear night. And I don't know why I went outside. I was probably midnight. I walked outside. It was about 2 feet of snow out there. And it was a crystal clear, just you could look up and see the sky or the stars shining. And I lived in the country, so when you saw the stars, they were out. And so I just kind of looked up, and I made this. I just started talking. I just started making this to myself, and a promise to my mom that I would have to step up and do whatever it needed to be done because we didn't have a dad and we needed money. And so I made a promise to myself that for the rest of my life, I would never, ever, ever be in this situation ever again, and I would do what it took to never be in that spot, and I would do whatever it took for me to help my family get out of that spot. And I was just 11 years old, and it was one of those things where I all of a sudden went from a boy to thinking like a man, and I was only 11. And I made all those promises to myself, and I said, you know what? I've got to help myself first before I can help anybody else. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that I wanted to do was get a job. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was only 11 or approaching 12, but I knew that I had to get a job or do something to make money. And my dad knew this man who owned a steakhouse in the country. And it was about 6 miles from where we grew up. And so that spring, I had worked and done odd jobs on the farm, and my grandfather had paid me a couple of bucks, and I'd mowed some lawns and just did whatever I could to make a couple of dollars. And then I quickly found out that there wasn't a whole lot of money, floating around at that time. It was the 70s, as we talked about, and everything was tight, and everybody didn't have money. And so they saw the earnestness in me and wanted to help. And so I earned $12. And I convinced, I don't remember who it was, I convinced my uncle or my aunt, one of them, to drive me around to look for a bike at garage sales. And at a garage sale, and the man wanted $20 for it, and I said, well, all I have is $12, and I really need this bike because I have to get a job. And the man gave me the bike, and I gave him the $12.
Oh, wow.
And so I took the bike.
Take a deep breath on that one. Oh, my. Yeah, like you were saying, people understand when somebody really is coming from an honest and sincere place, they honor that. And it looks like, even in your very tender youth, people sense the sincerity within you and the drive, and you were able to manifest to make things happen from your young, tender years.
Yeah. So I drove my bike 6 miles, and it was the only person that I knew that might be able to help me. And this, oh God, it's just hard to go back there.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, it's our future's not our story yet. It's so foundational to where you are right now. It's. I honor you sharing this from a heartfelt space.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, I drove my bike to this restaurant, and a man named Charlie, I'm not going to say his last name because it's in that town, but oh, wow. But this man named Charlie owned this restaurant, and he knew my dad, and they grew up together. And he grew up to be pretty successful and owned this steakhouse. And we would go there. My dad would take me there, and we would have just occasional, little outing. And so I showed up there, and the man's name was Charlie. And I said, Charlie, I need a job, and you need to hire me, and I need to work. I need money. And he said, well, you're 11 or 12 or whatever. You're a kid. You can't work. You have to have working papers. And I never heard that term, working papers. I was like, what is a working paper? And I asked him that. I said, what is working papers? And he explained to me, how the job situation worked, and that you had to be a certain age, and then when you got to be a certain age, you filled out these papers, and the state of New York allowed you to work, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, well, the heck with those papers. I need money now. I said, we can fill those papers out later, but right now I need a job. And I said to him, well, just pay me cash. And I knew that because, a lot of people in upstate New York use this term, get paid under the table. And so I knew that term. And so I said, Charlie, pay me under the table. And he looked at me and he said, I just can't hire you. And I pretty much begged him. And I said, I need money. My family needs money. I need a job. And so he said, you know what? He said, he looked at me and he saw, what I was going through, and he knew my family and he knew my dad. And he was one of the people that would drop groceries off at my house in a box.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, okay. He said, all right, I'll hire you. He said, you got a job. And I went, okay, thank God. And, I rode 6 miles on my bike, right? So I was not going to let him. This guy was not going to tell. Right, no was not in my. There was the answer no was not in my vocabulary, and so I did not want to hear no. And so he gave me a job. He said, okay, well listen. He said your first order of business and your first job is to go underneath the restaurant. And the restaurant was up on piers. It was an old building, probably built in the early 1900s. And there was a pier and beam kind of setting underneath there, and there was lattice that went around the building. And he said, okay, your first job is to go underneath the restaurant, and there's a skunk under there, and you need to get him out because it's bad for business. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, what? I'm going to hold on. What is my first job? And he goes, you heard me. There's a skunk underneath the restaurant, and it's smelling the place up, and it's bad for business, and you got to get him out of there. And so I went, and I couldn't believe it. But hey, I said, you know what? I need the money, and I did what I had to do. And so I went under there and wrestled out this skunk, and I smelled for weeks. I smelled for literally weeks on end.
That's the sense of success.
Right, and it's funny. I can actually make a little joke about that. My first job actually stunk. Literally. Literally, yes. And literally stunk.
I love it.
And so I wrestled him out of there, and that was kind of the start of the beginning. And I had worked there for a number of years as a kid. I worked there probably for 4 or 5 years until I was a teenager. And I eventually got, other, things that he gave me. And I took that money, and I bought my school clothes with it. I gave it to my mother to buy groceries. And I didn't earn much money. I think he was paying me like $2 an hour, So at the end of the week, I may have worked 20 hours or something. And so I made like $40. But $40 in 1977 was a lot of money.
Yeah, like a bag of chips was 10 cents then. So, we go a lot farther.
Yeah, you could buy things with a penny back then, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
You could buy something for a penny or a nickel. And so that was kind of my first experience as a working person, and all of a sudden growing up as just a young boy and doing what a young man would actually do. And so my brother did the same thing. My older brother did the same thing, and we all did whatever we could to get by. And that was the start of my life. And I realized that there was a price to pay, and I wasn't willing to pay that price anymore of poverty and going without food and being hungry. And I remember one time, this is just, I'm regressing a little bit, but we were in such dire straits one time when my dad was alive, and this was probably a month before he died. We lived on a hill, and we had fuel oil that would heat our home, and the hill was covered with 2 feet of snow. We had a really bad blizzard or something that year, and the fuel service couldn't get up our hill to put fuel in our tank so that would heat our home. And so we were literally heating our home by my dad broke the furniture up. We literally broke the kitchen chairs up and broke the end tables up and put them in the fire to heat the home.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine how devastating that was as a child watching your furniture get broken up like that.
Yeah, and it was hard to take, but my dad just did whatever he needed to do, and he went that extra mile and he didn't care. He did what he needed to do. And I took that from him and made a life of it.
Yeah.
I always did what I needed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that literally transformed my life. And I thought to myself, nothing was harder than that. And if I made it through that, then I could do anything. Yeah. And so
and I think that's safe to say that is very, you've been very well grounded, and I'm sure that as you were going through that, you knew no difference. So you probably thought that everybody did the same to a certain extent.
And that is true, because I didn't know any different. I just knew that I was a young kid, and I just thought that's what people did. And as I grew older, I found out that people weren't doing that, and that I was separated. I separated myself from other people by being driven and having that drive of never being in that place again. And I always just did what I had to do to get where I wanted to go. And it was kind of like a launch. It was a platform for me. And I did this hard work and labor work around that restaurant, and I worked on the farm 24/7, and just hardcore, just labor work.
Yep.
And baling hay and milking cows and piling hay in the barn and fixing things, and it was just 24/7 work. And I decided that I wanted to be a businessman. And I kind of looked at the man, Charlie, that owned the restaurant, and I saw how he did. And I thought, this guy's successful. I want to be a businessman like him. But I didn't want to own a business. I wanted to just be in the business world. And then I decided that I wanted to own a business. And so that was kind of like my launch, my platform of wanting to be successful in life and having a purpose kind of driven life. And I wrote down some notes here that it really did give me just a purpose for my life to go forward, to help other people. And it was weird because I knew that I could do it. I knew that I had everything and anything that I was, God gave me everything and anything to do what I needed to do. But what was odd is that I wanted to take that and immediately help other people with it. And so I got a job at Metropolitan Life at 19 years old. And I was one of the youngest people to ever pass their exam, and I scored the highest on their exam at that time, blah, 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 and all this stuff.
Wow.
And so they were very impressed with me, and they hired me. And here I was, a farm kid, and next thing you know, I'm in a suit and tie, and I'm working for Metropolitan Life. And so it was kind of a big culture shock for me. In fact, I didn't even know how to tie it. Listen to this. This is funny. I didn't even know how to tie a tie. And so I went across the street. This is funny. I went across the street, and I bought a suit, and the man said, well, you're going to need a tie. And I said, great, well, pick one out for me. And so he picked a tie out for me, and I said, well, put it on me and see how it looks. And he tied it, and he tied it on me, and I go, looks great, I'll take it. I didn't know how to tie the tie.
Oh,
and
wow.
So the man tied the tie for me.
That is so wonderful.
But anyhow, so that's where my business career started at MetLife, and I think it's the first day I was there. We had a conference meeting, and there were a bunch of older men that had been there for 30 years. You know, they had gray hair and bald, and there were these old men that, you know, they looked like insurance men, you know.
Yes, yes.
And so I was the young kid in the block, and there was an old guy named Joe, and Joe actually took bets on the new people. He would have like an office bookie thing going on. and anyway, I'll tell you the story about later. But he made a bet that I wouldn't last 6 months or something.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so anyway, with the first year, so the first meeting, my boss, the branch manager, he said, "What is the definition of success? Craig, do you know the definition of success?" And he said, "Here we're success driven, and we want you to be a success. So let's start with the definition of success. What is that?" And I looked at him, and I was like dumbfounded. I didn't know what success was. All I knew was I wanted it. And he said, "Success is this. It's my definition," and that's what he said. He gave his own definition. He said, "Success is people doing the things that unsuccessful people are not willing to do long enough until they become successful." He said, "Most people will quit, and there's no success. And so you've got to do the things that people are not willing to do longer than everybody else, and you'll be a success."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay, fine." Yeah, and so I thought to myself, all right, well, that's a nice little cherry. I'll keep that and put that in my pocket. And I literally have based my entire life on that statement, is that I was willing, because I had already done that. I was familiar with what he said. You know, I was familiar with doing the things that unsuccessful people were not willing to. I drove my bike 6 miles to go pull a skunk out from under a restaurant, you know, at 11. So
exactly.
Pretty, you know.
I love that. I love that point. Yeah. That is so true. To do what others will not do, you know, and that is so crucial today for all of us to kind of absorb that, because that is really, really deep truth.
Yeah, and people get caught up in life, and they get caught up in, you know, we were talking the other day, and I'm kind of transferring this over into society, is that people get caught up in the day-to-day activities of having a family and life, and that's, you know, that's life. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. But then people get caught up into the society of life, and I mean the society of life meaning, you know, the events that are going on, the trivial things that are happening in the world, or the big major things that are happening in the world. And mm-hmm. every time you turn on the news, everybody's shot, raped, murdered, pillaged, stole, and robbed. And people get caught up in all of that stuff, and they can't focus on what it is that they're doing because they're distracted by all these things that's happening around them in society. And so as a young kid, we didn't really have we had a television, but it didn't work very well. And so I wasn't somebody that watched television. And so I wasn't distracted, and I was focused on what I was doing and focused on becoming a success. So I don't know where to go from here.
Well, no, and that's true, because you know, the common consciousness is that if you talk to one person and you say, "How are you today?" and they go, "Oh, this is happening," and you could talk to somebody 20 minutes later, and the same "this is happening" is being said by the person that you were talking to 20 minutes later, maybe 3 or 4 blocks down the road, because that becomes the common consciousness. It's almost like it hypnotizes us and puts us into a trance state that clouds our outlook and makes the cup half full as opposed to half empty. And then this pessimism permeates, which becomes this common consciousness. And most of the people that are listening to this show are not of that common consciousness. So we're going to be talking to the choir, but for those of you that really look around and look at what it is that you do and you open up your mind to on a daily basis in terms of the entertainment you watch, the people you hang around. Not that we want to say don't watch TV and don't hang around people, but really pay attention to what is the common thread. And do this for yourself for a couple of days. And I'd really like you to kind of say, is it bringing me profit? Is what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing or what I'm doing bringing me profit? Because if it isn't, then you need to change your own thinking. Don't change the people, because if they're your family and loved ones, we don't want to make major changes. But really think about, what can you do differently? How can you think differently to open up the portal of abundance that is there for us? And Craig, you definitely have tapped into the well of abundance. And yes, it does take a lot of work. It does take doing the things that other people don't do. But I'm sure you're also aware of that mindset and manifesting the life of your dreams as well.
Well, yeah, and I saw, I mean, all those points that you made are just, I mean, they resonate with me. I mean, either good or bad, but, we all go through all of that. But I never let society and I never let the world, what was going on, distract me from where I was going and what I wanted out of life. And, and so I just kept trudging on, and I used every source of wherever I was as kind of like a stepping stone to get to the next place. And I found out that corporate America, that whole ladder thing, that whole ladder concept, there is no ladder. It is literally a house of cards. It's fake. It doesn't exist. And to climb that ladder to the top, to be the CEO or the president and blah, 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 the old story, okay, I started in the mailroom and now I'm the CEO 20 years later. You know how many times that happened? Once, in millions of people. And it takes decades and decades of just striving. And so I wasn't willing to do that. And I quickly saw that metropolitan life, although it gave me a lot of good, solid background and information, and I got a lot of education from there. And by the way, I kind of skipped college. I tried college a little bit, and I dropped out. I literally said, I can't do this college thing. I've got to go to work. I've got to make money, and I'll do it on my own. And so I just literally left college after maybe about 6 months or maybe even 1.5 semesters, and said, I'm going out into the workforce, or I'm going to start a business, one or the other. And so I got my job at MetLife, and I quickly became the top salesperson in the upstate New York area in the Empire branch. And for the total 5 years I was there, I won every award that you can imagine they gave out. And so I made a lot of money. And the reason that I was doing well at the insurance is kind of an interesting kind of twist of why I sold insurance. My dad died. The reason why I chose insurance is because I knew people needed it, and I knew that we were poor because, and I'll tell you, this is a backstory. 3 days before my dad died, our insurance man came to our house, and he worked with State Farm, and he was telling my dad that he needed life insurance, and it was actually on my birthday. Because I remember, because my birthday didn't happen that night. The insurance man had all the papers and everything all over the table, and my birthday cake was sitting in the refrigerator going, hey, I'm in here.
Oh, no.
And so I kept waiting for this insurance man to be quiet and shut up and go away. But he wanted to sell my dad some insurance. And so my dad said, listen, the guy's name was Ray. He said, Ray, listen, I only have $5, but I know the premium is $12. But I only have $5. He goes, I'll give you $5 now, and I'll pay on Friday the difference. And so the insurance man said, well, listen, why don't I just come back on Friday, pick up $12, and we'll get your insurance started then. So he said, okay, fine. Well, my dad died literally like 2 days later. This was like on Tuesday. My dad died on Thursday.
Oh, my. And
so if my dad had had $7 more, and the man was selling him a $100,000 life insurance policy, if we had $100,000 in life insurance, my life would have been completely different than it was growing up, 6 kids poor, and taking handouts, and me having to ride my bike back and forth to a restaurant and work. And so I saw the value in that whole thing, and I thought, well, I'll go in the insurance business and I'll do something kind of noble, and I thought it was kind of a noble thing to do. And so I went into the insurance business with that passion and personal attachment to insurance, thinking, well, this can help me, sell insurance. And so I would tell my story to the clients, and they would sign up. I mean, it was all I did. It didn't matter what I was selling them. I told them my story, and they went, okay, that sounds, we don't want that to happen to us. And so and it was just my personal story.
Wow.
And so that's what kind of made me successful in the insurance business, and I stayed with that for 20 more years, and made millions of dollars in the insurance business, insurance investments and tax planning and trust planning and estate planning.
Wow.
And so out of my own family not doing planning, and my dad didn't have a will, and so that kind of made things crazy. And so I went out on a journey and did all the things for other people that we didn't have and never had.
Right. Well, life's lessons are definitely the best tools to take forward to develop our future from. So you've had a really amazing grounding, and it paid off. Like not only the experience of losing your dad in such a way, and that financial mess that you lived through, which it as tragic as it is, was a real blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and it was kind of like the weakest moment was the strongest moment in my life, because that weakest moment and that tragedy became the drive for my entire life, and it still drives me today. It still drives me today. And
let's talk about today, because today I'd like you to, before we get into how you got to today, because obviously you did extremely well in the traditional job mode, but I want you to just take a moment and describe what today is like for you, a day in the life of Craig Todd, former Met insurance representative, former farm boy, with a drive and a passion to succeed. And then what we're going to do is go from what today looks like, your day in your life today, to what it is that is causing you to have this beautiful and magnificent life that you now live.
Okay. My day is filled with whatever it is that I choose to do. My success has given me the freedom and the time to enjoy whatever it is that I want to do in life. Now, I'm not sitting on top of millions and millions of dollars, but, over my lifetime, I've made millions and millions of dollars. And so we live a nice life. I live in Dallas, Texas, and there's a lake that we live on here, and we have a nice home. We have, fine automobiles. We have a couple of, I love the brand name Lexus, and we have some SUVs, and I have my passion in life and the things that I do for myself. I love to play golf, and I love to fish. And so my boys kind of followed in my footsteps. I have 2 boys, and I'm married, and my wife, Jennifer, is wonderful support for me, and she helps me in everything that I do and supports me in everything that I do. And so we live a life of abundance, and our income, we have a 5-figure a month residual income that comes in whether we work or we don't work. And so we're able to do the things that we want to do as a family, and we have the money to do them with, and we spend the time with the people that we love most instead of the people that we have to work with, 40 hours a week. And so as a businessman, I gained back all of my time, and I have money to do it with. So it's a great life, and I wake up in the morning when I'm done sleeping, so to speak.
When you're ready to, not at the alarm clock, right?
No, we don't have alarm clocks. There's no alarm clocks. Well, I can't say that because my kids go to school, and a couple of times a week I have to drive the kids to school. And so I do have to wake up, at 7 o'clock or whatever. But I'm pretty much up anyway. But the days that I don't, drive them to school, I wake up when I'm ready to wake up and when I'm done sleeping. I don't drive in traffic. I don't have a job, and I don't answer to anyone. And so it's an amazing thing to have.
Yeah. I think, that's truly the American dream. You are living it.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that people say that, and what's funny is, and I don't want to sound strange, but there's so much more that I could do that it freed up my time, and now I'm in the mode of helping other people and inspiring other people to get where I am and show them that they can do it and that it's possible, and And if I can do it, anybody can do it. You know, look what I went through and look where I'm at. I mean, the odds were stacked against me so badly, you know, so, you know, I'm not saying I have the world's worst story, but I'm sure that there's lots of millions of people out there that have a better story than mine, you know. So,
well, it's your story,
yeah.
and so it's very special in the fact that, you know, when you get to this place of finding peace in your life and finding a good place now to be able to give forward from, the sky is really the limit, because I'm sure that even though you have everything you need and want and have a residual income coming in, it gives you greater joy to help others than just the joy of what your own life can be. So living in a silo can be pretty, but it can be very limiting. But it's when you reach this point of expansion and philanthropy that can go forward that it really does jazz up and excite your life, I'm sure. So what I'd like to have you maybe explain to us, I know that I was listening to something very exciting that got you to this point of okay, so you were a former Met representative, did very, very well in the insurance industry. You know about investments and you know about everything that goes with that piece. But now there was a defining moment even in all that, the trappings of supposed corporate American success, that really drove you to this new point in your life. Can you share with us about the story about your son? I think we lost Craig.
No,
Craig,
we
are
didn't.
you there?
You didn't.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
When I had my own business, and we were doing business in 17 states, and so I was never home. Although we were successful, we were making a lot of money. I had a young family in in the year 2001, 2, and 3, and 4. And so we had kids. My two boys, Gabriel and Nicholas, were like 2 years old and 3 and a half. And so I traveled around. We had representatives and offices in 17 different states across the United States. And so I was off training and building and doing all these things. And so my young son said to my wife one day, he said, "Mom, how come Dad doesn't visit much anymore?"
Oh, that's an arrow in my heart right now. I just feel the pain. Oh, I think that's probably as low as you can go as a parent.
Yeah. And he thought that I was a visitor. He actually didn't think that I lived in the house that I live in.
Oh.
And so, although I was after this success and I wanted success and I was doing all the things that, you know, unsuccessful people were not willing to do, all of a sudden I found myself being successful but not successful as a father and a husband.
Right.
And so it brought me to my knees, and I said, I've got to do something different. This is not working. And coincidentally, we were kind of looking into other things to do because I saw the market disaster looming, and this was around 2000, fast-forwarding to around 2004 and 2005. And I saw the whole mortgage debacle before it happened. I saw it. I said, this thing's going to crash down about 2 years from now. And with all the different things that I knew about the industry, and we were embedded in the whole financial world. And so I kind of had a vision and said, I've got to do something now so that when this whole thing comes crashing down, I'm not in the middle of it. And so I did.
Wow.
And so I said, you know what, this is a great time to make a change. I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm going to stop doing this. And just then, a fellow that I knew, we had rented a building together in the financial district in Dallas. And he was going into this other business. He was shutting his business down as well. And he said, well, I'm going into this energy business, and it's being done on a network marketing basis. And he said, I know you know a lot about network marketing. And he had mentioned the two gentlemen that were starting the company, and it was a startup. And I was like, really? And so I was very kind of interested in that. And so I went and I met with the two successful gentlemen that were starting the company, and I decided, you know what, this is it. I'm getting off this train, and I'm getting on this train. And I literally made a decision right then and there. It was a split-second decision. I got enough information to say, this is a new train. I recognize opportunity. And going backwards a little bit, all those years as I was building my businesses and doing things, I recognized opportunity when it was put in front of me. And a lot of people walk around kind of in a daze, and you could put opportunity in front of them, they don't recognize it. And so in order to take advantage of an opportunity, you have to recognize that it's there in front of you. And so I saw it immediately, and I said, this is a train that I'm going to ride. And I saw, millions and millions of dollars, written all over it. And so I went and I met with the two fellows, and it was a startup company. We were one of the first people to actually help the company get off the ground and their marketing division. And I went out and just went to work and did what I knew best and built a business that now pays me, 5 figures a month. What most people make in a year, I make in a month. Wow. And it's a residual income-based business, and it's all based off of energy. And so I thought everybody uses energy, and no one is you cannot live without energy. And I thought, well, that's the next biggest thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, just any energy. I mean, you got to use gas, electricity, or whatever to heat or cool your home and to live. And so I thought that is a commodity that you can't live without. And I jumped on that train, and I saw the opportunity, recognized it, and I did what I needed to do and worked long enough and hard enough, longer than the other people, and became a millionaire from that business. And I saw it from day one. Yeah. Wow.
Well, thank goodness for deregulation of utilities in many states, and that opened up the avenue for people, everyday people, to take advantage of utilities and the services that are day-to-day, no-brainer things. Every time we flip on a switch, how about getting paid for flipping on a switch? Wow, that just blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. The owner of the company said something to me that you triggered a word, and the word was switch. He said to me, Craig, you're going to get paid for what you start. And for the rest of your life, when someone turns on a light switch and plugs in their refrigerator and turns on their air conditioner, you're going to make money every single time, every second, every minute, every hour of every day for the rest of your life. And he said, you're going to get paid for what you start today. And we gathered a couple of customers, and then we got, consultants and trained them, and they gathered a couple more customers. And as I sit here today, we have a group, my group, in this business that I'm telling you about. We have 100,000 customers, and I have 20,000 plus consultants that go out there and gather customers on a daily basis that provides that income that I talked about. And so it started with talking to one person, and that one person went to his mother, and he talked to his mother. His mother said, hey, great. Those two jumped on board, went to work, and about 5 other people literally got on board, and they went to work, and next thing you know it, I have in my group more customers than most energy companies have.
That blows my mind. It really does.
We have 100,000. We have 100,000 customers and 21,000 consultants, and we've created 4 millionaires. 4 millionaires have been created in my group, and I'm one of them. Oh. And so, just an amazing story. And so, when I look back at the little boy who was riding his bike down the road to go pull a skunk out from under a restaurant. That's it. I mean, that's where it started, and here's where I'm at. And I can tell you everything in between led up to where I'm at. And so it's been a heck of a journey and a heck of a life, and it wasn't always easy. And we were talking about yesterday, if I were to break this down into just a couple of words, my life, I would break it down into. Yeah, I would break my life down to a couple of words. The first word would be fortitude, and that would be everything and anything that I completely am. I trudged through, got through, busted through, overcame, adapted, did whatever I had to do to get to wherever I wanted to go. And you know what? I'm still not done. I'm barely on my journey. And so fortitude, I think, is what got me through all of that, and it's the kind of the mantra of my life. You know, anyone can do anything, and nothing is impossible. And so that's how I think. And, you know, we just did a big seminar in New Jersey, Mindset of a Millionaire, and I broke it down into 30 words. I broke my entire life down into 30 words. And one of those words is fortitude, and the other words are nothing is impossible and anything is possible. And that's kind of how I live. That's my mindset. You can't tell me I can't do X. And I can tell you, you know what? If I don't do X, it'll be very, very, very close. And that's how I think. Or I push the boundary and I go, yeah, well, if you tell me that I can't do X, I'm going to do X plus Y, Z, and then go back to A. And then you'll see really where everything is. And it's kind of like this personal, you know, I might seem like I have a little bit of an attitude, but you know what? That's what you have to have in business to be a success. I think it's fortitude and attitude and thinking everything is possible and nothing is impossible. And so I broke my life down to about 4 words: impossible, possible, fortitude, and attitude. And that's how I think.
I think that's absolutely amazing to have someone who has overcome so many life challenges to get where you are. This is what is so important, and I really love the fact that you were able to break it down into a few short words. And when people listen to this, because this call will be evergreen, it'll be up and posted for an extremely long time, that these words have resonance not only for today, but for ongoing, and that you can apply. Any person can persevere by applying these words that you're sharing, and can change their life overnight if they so choose.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Those words. It doesn't matter if you heard this broadcast 100 years from now or 100 years before. It's still the same thing, and those principles will carry through. You know, another thing I didn't touch on, and I don't even actually think that you know this, Brenda, but in 2009, right in the middle of my journey with this energy company, I had a heart attack. And I almost followed in the footsteps of my father. I was 43 years old. And I had a heart attack, and a major, major heart attack. Not just a little bitty heart attack. I'm talking, wow. And I nearly died, and I had to have emergency open heart surgery. My heart was in bad shape, and I had quadruple bypass open heart surgery in 2009.
Oh my God, 43.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 43 years old, and that left me literally pretty much crippled. I couldn't walk. I couldn't breathe hardly. I couldn't do anything in my job, in my career, in my business, and it left me pretty much immobilized for about 6, 8, 9 months. And the beauty of the business that I started was it's network marketing. And the beauty of that business was, at that time, I was getting a residual check of about $25,000 a month. And, and so that year I didn't work at all, and I made in residual income more in excess of $300,000 in residual income. And so that also is the beauty of the concept of network marketing or the multi-level marketing world, is that when you're not working, the other people that are in your business are working, and that they're generating an income, and that you're not required in your business. And so I caught on to that whole network marketing principle very early on in my business career, actually in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. And all of the business models that I had done and put together and worked in were all network marketing businesses. And truly, it was the best marriage of the skill set that I had and the mindset that I had, and that I realized that there's nothing more powerful than leverage and duplication, and there's nothing more powerful than 100% 100 men can do way more than one man can do. And I understood that principle of leverage. And so that's what got me through that heart attack and that open heart surgery, is having the vision to understand that energy was a market, was never ever going to go away, and it was a great concept. And they married the two together, energy and network marketing, and it was a blessing, because I honestly fought for my life for months.
But at least you had the security of fighting for yourself and not having to worry about your wife and children being taken care of, which is
correct
in itself another type of insurance policy, is what network marketing can do when you work a business long enough, and it does take work. You have to, for you to get to the level where you are, you probably had to have more million no's, more than some people do ever in their entire life, in order to get the yeses and the customers and create the business and the security that you have. But it was the sustainability and the goal of making something work that you believe in. And I think that it's a no-brainer to think about the energy and the utility market. With the deregulation, the opportunities are wide open, and in network marketing in general, it creates a level playing field, doesn't it?
It sure does. And, I don't want to make this all about, network marketing, but it is a very, very good concept and idea, and it has, a stigmatism to it out there in the world that people think, it's some kind of scheme or what have you. But this is the energy business. This is a deregulation of a public utility across America. It is a bona fide, absolute, real business that has real success. And it's a product. It's not a product, actually. It's a service that everybody uses, and they can't live without. And so the network marketing format levels the playing field. And you can be, you literally, there are so many rags to riches stories in network marketing, and I'm one of them. And so you literally can turn your life around with the concept and idea of network marketing if you have the right product or service. And that you're comfortable, representing. And so energy is energy, The energy that you use in your house is the same energy that I use in my house. And so it's no different than an ABC company or a QXY company. It's all the same. And so the whole idea just levels the playing field. There are people, listen to this, there are people in this business, in my business in particular. There's a girl who just signed up out of high school. She was 18 years old. And she's now a six-figure income earner, residual income. She's about 21 years old, and she's never had a job.
Wow. That's
so
and then there are people who are sitting unemployed and maybe seeing, opportunities being presented to them and don't get it. And yet
not
not
recognizing it.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest thing that I want to say in closing here about this is that during a recession, and we're in a very hard recession, whether the newscast wants to let you know about it or not, whether the big name news broadcasting companies don't tell you about it, but it's out there. When you go to the pump and it's $4.50 a gallon, something's not right. When you go to buy milk and it's $3.80 a gallon, something's not right. We're still in a recession. And what happens in the network marketing business is that during recessions, the network marketing companies flourish. They just absolutely go through the roof because people are looking for an alternative way to make money, and they're not willing to trade time for dollars. And in network marketing, you don't have to trade time for dollars. You can work part-time and earn a full-time income. And so that's just my little plug for the network marketing side of me.
I appreciate that, because I want people to understand that there is a plethora of opportunity out there, and more millionaires are made during times of difficulty than during times of plenty. And so I just want to encourage, if anybody's interested in connecting with Craig Todd, you can do so by emailing me at bpiercefry@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that I connect you with Craig. I want to also let you know that I myself, I love network marketing. I think that there is so much opportunity out there, and Jasuru is a product that a network marketing company that has a great product and great opportunity as well. And you can connect with me about that as well. I want to just share, Craig, that I love the fact that you made something happen to change the tide, even though you were already successful and you had the mindset of success from such a young boy. I see that. I envision this boy going down the dirt road on a bike, in the dusty summer and heading towards that skunk-infested restaurant. It's a picture that will always spur me into knowing that anything is possible. And even if it stinks, it still can be an opportunity that is well worth your time to investigate. And I just thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with us and sharing your story of rags to riches. The Millionaire mindset is possible with all is possible. And with Craig Todd, this has been an amazing hour. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, Craig.
Well, thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity, and you're very insightful and encouraging to me as well. So I appreciate all that you do and all that you are. So thank you.
Oh, from the bottom of my heart. To all of you that are listening to this broadcast, now and in the future, please be inspired. Remember, you are blessed, and you are a blessing. You are loved, and you are love. And may this call be a jewel in the crown of life that you so deserve to wear. Much love, many blessings, and until we meet again, keep your E Factor on and look for fresh approaches to living life. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to E Factor Radio with Brenda Pierce here on E Factor Network. Download podcasts of this program on efactornetwork.biz. Thank you for listening.